Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap the UFC BJJ 6 and also talk about Tye Ruotolo versus Pawel Jaworski on One Championships. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Austin.
How you doing, Austin?
I'm not bad. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I wish we had, it's good to have you back on. It's been a minute.
Yeah.
I wish we had a better event to recap.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I think you were more positive on it than I was. We just had a nice pre-show where we kind of went back and forth on it. You have some great notes and some kind of great information about it. Not a whole lot of other news that I want to talk about. Some news that probably we'll touch on next week. Next week, we are going to recap the second South American trials for South America, the Brazilian trials. Yep. They happened, I think, today. They finished today. So we just haven't had time to digest that before. So we're going to push that into next week. We'll give that its full coverage next week and then focus mainly today on the UFC BJJ and One Championship. So yeah, that's it. Austin, where do you want to start? You want to start with one, or do you want to start with UFC and then touch on one at the end?
Let's start with one because it'll be pretty quick. I don't think that one takes too long to get through.
Tye retained versus Pawel Jaworski. It was an exciting match. Was good. This is probably a me thing. I still kind of like the in the ropes stuff.
Oh, yeah.
When they fall into the ropes and it becomes just a clusterfuck.
Yeah, it makes it more interesting.
I kind of do still. I shouldn't, but I do kind of like the X factor that like the ropes brings. And again, the UFC BJJ being in the bowl, which I hate calling it the bowl, is an interesting kind of flavor as well. But what was your take on the matchup? I think from a scoring perspective, the way that they call the catches. So again. Mm-hmm. As always, when we talk about with the weirdness of jiu-jitsu, every organization that does professional grappling now has its own rule set. One Championship, they operate on like a catch system. That is, if you have a close sub or something that's like in that needs to be defended, the referee goes catch, and there's a gradation for that. And then the person at the end with the most catches usually wins. In this case, Tye gets 2 catches and Pawel gets 1. You can make an argument that Pawel should have had more or not or less, or Tye hurt his knee. And there's like, you're in a semi-subjective rule set because we have no points. That's sort of the problem with a lot of professional rule sets is like, there's a bit of controversy online right now of like, well, did Tye win or did Pawel win? Like Pawel had better heel hook attempts, but Tye gets the catch there and then hits the no arm triangle. So what do you got, Austin? What are your takes?
Yeah, the coolest thing that happened in the match was like right off the rip in the beginning, Tye bounces off the ropes and kind of like spears him. Like he kind of just straight up tackles him. Like people call it double leg, but he like left the ground. Like his body like left the ground. And I think Pawel was going to pull anyway, but at least that added some excitement to the match. Yeah. Added something different. So I kind of thought that was cool. For as effective as or not ineffective as it was,
Pawel was going to the ground anyway, but Tye got it there. I mean,
he's a leg locker, so you know he's going to pull, so it didn't really matter that much. But I think it does matter in a pretty close, like passer versus leg locker sort of match, where like not a whole lot of other memorable things happen. Mm-hmm. You want to like make a statement in the beginning, and you want to make things exciting.
It's a single round too, so you're not judging like multiple rounds like we are in the UFC, where those big moments a lot of times stand out in these rule sets and will win you matches. Like Michael Bisping famously even talks about it, like he hears the clapper go in the end of rounds and just goes. And so the last thing the judges remember are the flurry and the 10 seconds that he ends the round with.
Is a big thing in combat sports.
This is at the beginning of it, but also like you're giving, if in a match where maybe it's very close, maybe it's not very close, if you are the athlete that had the more memorable, effective sequences, like in a subjective judging scenario, like that will win. We've seen it years and years and time again in MMA and jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and Muay Thai, like time and time again, the guy that did the more memorable thing in like a big moment will win. And so again, that's one of the things I like about Tye and Cade and even like the Thacker brothers, like they will have these big, and J-Rod, they'll have these big moments where you're like, oh yeah, that thing. They can have other stretches of the match where maybe they're not even winning, but you'll remember those big sequences and like, oh, that stands out in your head. It wins them more decisions, I think, than a athlete that would not have had those moments.
Yeah, and then from a branding standpoint, like that's the clippable moment. Like that's the thing you can throw on Instagram or Reels or whatever, TikTok, whatever your flavor of 10-second engagement is. You can throw that up and be like, hey, look how exciting this sport is. This guy will bounce off the ropes and tackle somebody. Yeah. Even though that was 10 seconds out of a 10-minute match.
In a dynamic for a matchup that didn't really probably matter because the match was going there anyway. Right. But it looks cool. And there is, in professional jiu-jitsu, there is a real like that is tangibly beneficial to have those kind of moments.
Yep.
So what else on the technical side, Austin? What do you got?
Yeah, so it wasn't. It was mostly just passer versus leg locker. One of the things I think is cool, and the Ruotolo bros have been doing this for years, but kind of just the evolution of this. But it's basically step on the leg passing that Tye was trying to use. But it was really interesting that he was gripping the shins with his hands when he could, which is like the meta, like you're grabbing like the outside legs to keep them from like spinning between your legs. But he was also using his feet to do the same thing. So like instead of just stapling with his hands, if his hands couldn't get to it because he was being mercy gripped or being out gripped, he would use his feet to do the same thing. And not a lot of people do that.
We're seeing more guys do it, but like even the Ruotolo brothers are, what do they call it? Like foot pin passing, I think.
Yeah.
Is that the term they use?
They call it step on the leg passing.
Step. I thought it had a better name than that.
I know. Yeah, I went to a seminar of theirs like, I don't know, a couple years back. And there was like, yeah, with step on the leg passing, I was like, I thought they'd have some cool.
I thought it was foot pin. What was it called? But I think we call it foot pin, which is a name I like better. But
sounds better.
They are still some of the guys that are doing that better than anyone else in the sport. And it's really interesting because almost all of their one championship matches in the grappling side will have that if they are the top player where they're doing it. And it's really interesting that we're starting to see it creep into like other guys and other camps using it, but they still do it the best to like a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, I think it is an attribute-based thing for a lot of people. Like if you have really big feet or really like dexterous feet, it's a lot easier. Like when they were doing it, it looked like they could put both their heel and their toes on the ground at the same time.
Yeah, they bend their foot over like a grip almost.
Yeah, it looks like a hand. And other people, if you have shorter feet or smaller feet, maybe that's not going to be in your wheelhouse.
Right.
But in any case, there was that, and then like you alluded to, Pawel had like a really good heel hook attempt. He was kind of in like that diagonal ashi, or it's like really like a cross ashi position, or like a really deep reap is really what it is. But some people call it a diagonal ashi. And he went belly down for a heel hook, but Tye was kind of all over it, so it didn't really turn into a whole lot. It just ended up being crossface to get him out of it.
Yeah.
And then Tye had kind of two kind of Hail Mary. He had like a face crush kind of rear naked, like a front naked choke kind of. It was just like a face crank, and then he transitioned that into a no-arm triangle.
Like right at the end, at the end.
Bell. Yeah, like buzzer beaters. But if you're going to factor that in, let's say he had 2 catches or 1.5 catches versus Pawel's 1, and then the takedown in the beginning.
Yeah. I think Pawel in this match had like, this is a weird, and we've talked about this is sort of the problem with no points in jiu-jitsu, is Pawel, throughout the entire match, is like going for the legs, he's entering the legs. Like he's consistently having success ending the legs.
Sure.
But he's never getting to like, oh, that's out. That's getting like cranked where it's getting called for a catch. And then Tye is doing great work on top. He's passing. And so it's like we end up in this weird situation where because we have no way to assign points, we're just assigning on like catches.
Vibes.
On essentially vibes nowadays. And the UFC has a couple matches I'm going to say like I thought were vibe picks as well. Again, I've gone full circle from my purple belt days of like, man, I wish we just had points.
Yeah,
I wish there was just a criteria that we assigned for actions that you did that allowed you to score and we have open scoring, and then I know what the athlete needs to do to win, as opposed to this arbitrary like, well, he's got to sub him. You're like,
yeah,
these are 2 of the best guys in the world. They are very unlikely to be able to sub each other.
Yeah, subbing the peer is really difficult. And then also, I think about this with a lot of rule sets. It's like, okay, you want to go out there and sub them. They want to sub you because they want to get more money. They want to continue to be employed. But it's like, I don't know, man. Like, what are your chances of doing it without like catching them off guard or like surprising them with something? It's like super low. So like, I don't know. I don't know how you adjust a rule set to make that happen without making the rule set overly complicated or kind of like not nuanced. And then you end up with a lot of situations like CJI 1 where like Tye was going against Levi Jones-Leary. And it's like, okay, well,
Cade or Tye?
It was Cade. Cade, you're right. Sorry, misspoke. But
the other Ruotolo brother.
Yeah, the other Ruotolo brother. But it's like, okay, well, who do you award more? Do you award the guard player for attempting to sub him, but he's being aggressive, but he's sitting on his butt? And it's like, well, do you award the passer who continues to engage a person and like they're being put in all these like precarious situations, but they're trying to aggressively pass?
Yeah.
So it's like, if neither thing happens, like a sub or a sweep doesn't happen, and a pass or a topside sub doesn't happen, it's like, well, who wins? And that's kind of subjective, and I think that's kind of what you're going to see. I think a lot of jiu-jitsu people, like pure sport jiu-jitsu people, will say, well, the guard player. And then it's like anyone who has ever fought or like looks at it from a combative standpoint will say like, no, the top player wins in these like
it gets really
matches.
subjective. And we watched even the IBJJF like historically for years. If you were the guard player and kind of doing anything in the guard, they would give it to you, regardless of the top player. And that's moved, I think, to be a lot more equal and really recognizing guard as a neutral position. But for years, it was like, you can go back and watch matches from 15 years ago and like you're like, that guy wins? Like, yeah, man, because in this era, the guard player would win. Like they valued the guard. It's kind of like the flavor of like traditional Muay Thai. It's the last guy to land a knee in a clinch exchange wins that exchange. And you're like, well, he got to do more damage. It's like, yeah, man, that's not a criteria in this sport. It's the last guy to hit the knee before the exit. Like that is the criteria. Yeah. That is what's valued. And so from an outsider perspective, you're looking at it where it's like, well, he did more damage. Like, yeah, that's not criteria here. For what we're seeing is like, well, we have to make the subjective call for this rule set for this organization that doesn't honestly have a huge amount of grappling matches to go on. If one has had 50 grappling matches, I would be surprised.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things too, when it's like a striking sport, it's a lot easier to see damage add up over time. You can't really see damage add up over time with submissions because either you break someone or you don't, or you put somebody to sleep or you don't, or they tap or they don't. So it's like, you can't really, I don't know. Sometimes like a catch could be like, what, me straining my face while you're just staring at me?
Right.
Like, I don't know. Kind of the same as if you do local competitions and you do like a Naga or something and they give you a point for submission threat.
I was there yesterday. And it was, I have probably a story for the outro of coaching at Naga yesterday.
Yeah. But it's just like what counts as a sub threat? It's like, yeah, you have to be pretty knowledgeable to be able to say like, okay, yeah, that heel hook has the knee line. He's got his hands together. He's not being pulled. Whatever. Okay, that's a catch. There should be criteria for it, but it's so murky what the criteria could ever be.
And then also you have to have, we've talked about this like 2 years ago. I think you and I on the podcast was, okay, do you then have criteria for like, okay, this is the criteria for a Kimura. This is the criteria for, and then it gets into
people would game it.
It gets into the weeds so much where it's like, it just becomes untenable for someone to referee it effectively based on criteria.
Oh my God. The rest would get fried. Yeah. The officials would get fried. So like, he had his elbow on the ground. That's not a Kimura. It could be like the stupidest, pedantic thing. Yeah.
So that was his match. Again, it was fine. It was a fun match. I like the activity I like the engagement that Tye had in this match, and I like that Pawel was kind of gunning for it the entire time. I think it's very fine to give it to Tye here. There is some controversy online. You can go back and watch the match and see what you think for yourself. I again, with closed matches like this, I think it's fine to go to Tye.
Yeah, I gave it to Tye. I thought he was pressing the action. And again, when it's passer against leg locker, if the passer is aggressive and not like just straight up backing out of leg locks or backing out of entanglements and like backing away from engaging, I think it's going to go to the guard passer usually.
Yeah, typically, especially in like an MMA organization like One Championship. So you have I think you started on the other end of the notes. Let's start at the top end. So let's move on to UFC BJJ 6. Let's start at the main card. We were talking about last week when you previewed this of like, this is a weird matchup. And the organization commentary, I think you picked it up on commentary because I listened to it very quickly and after a certain point tuned out the commentary. You said that these guys met at Brown Belt 5 years ago. And
I can't remember what
Pedro
the stage
Machado
was.
had in a gi though.
Yeah, in the gi at Brown Belt was the last time I think they fought each other that I can remember.
So we're talking about Mason Fowler versus Pedro Machado, which was the main event for the light heavyweight title for UFC BJJ, UFC BJJ 6. This was a weird matchup. Again, I get the history, but we had two matches on this card that were big. Three matches on this card that I'm aware of that were big, not big rematches. Like Nick Rodriguez, Elder Cruz was a rematch. Anna Rodriguez versus Jasmine Hosso was a rematch. Mason Fowler versus Pedro Machado was a rematch. I thought this event was boring, and the matchmaking on the UFC is consistently weird and not interesting for a couple of reasons. Other than like Cassia Moura and Ffion Davies, that was like really great matchmaking. That match was easily the best on the card.
For sure.
I think we're going to touch on like why I made all those statements just now at the end of this, but it is really, I think it is who is doing the matchmaking here. Seems like someone who was just looking at it from like a record. Like a new guy comes in and looks at their records like, oh, this guy lost to this guy. We should match them up again.
100%.
And not really considering like A, where Mason Fowler was in his career when he lost to Pedro Machado, and B, looking at like what Pedro Machado is doing, and like
Right.
their careers have very much diverged in ways where this matchup doesn't make a lot of sense. It only makes sense if you still. It only makes sense in like the context of an MMA organization where it's like a fight from 5 years ago still may
Trying to
have
avenge a
divisional
loss.
relevance.
Yeah. I think it
Because guys are only fighting 2 or 3 times a year.
maybe this is more spicy than we intend it to be, but I think it looks like, this is my take, it seems like they pull up BJJ heroes and then they're like,
that's exactly
who
what
did they last lose to? Get that guy, or like get that girl. Like, we already have one big name, and like we can't get another big name at that weight because that's difficult to do when you have all these other competing organizations and all these other competing
And now
events.
you're in exclusive contracts, and
So it's
CGI
like,
3 is announced.
Who's the last person to beat Mikey Musumeci? Okay, well, go get that guy. Who's the last guy who had a bunch of matches with him that were exciting? Or who's, you know what I mean? Like, but they're not doing it from like a, where are they now? What have they done lately?
That's what it looks like, and this is how I would expect matchmaking to be. And again, so I bring this up because it's the second card that we've had in a row for UFC that was kind of like, it was okay. It was fine. Like, I'm happy that it exists. I'm happy guys are getting paid, but for the level of influence that the UFC has in combat sports in general, especially in submission grappling and MMA, these are weird matches to make when you have the ability to theoretically have the best guys in the world constantly fight the best guys. Some of the early Fight Pass Invitational cards, you're like, that's a crazy good matchup.
Yeah.
The matchmaking that was happening on the Fight Pass Invitational cards is not the matchmaking that is happening on the UFC BJJ cards, and I guess is because not as many people are amped to get locked into exclusive contracts.
100%.
And as a result, the matches are just weird.
Yeah.
So we've had 6 UFC BJJ cards, and 3 of them have been kind of mid.
Yeah.
This was a very kind of mid card. So I've made that point now. Let's talk about this one. I think this is one of the more interesting matchups, like the matches on the card. We had one submission on this entire card, which we've talked about historically is not necessarily like disqualifying of a really good card.
Yeah, for
Sometimes
sure.
the best guys in the world don't sub the best guys in the world, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, some of the best matches of all time did not end in the sub, in my opinion. So
like Andrew Tye Ruotolo,
Yeah.
the best match of all time didn't end in a sub,
Yeah.
and we would all watch that for 5 more rounds,
100%.
for 3 more rounds.
yeah, the most memorable matches usually have nothing to do with the finish, and most of the time, unless it's like something horrific or some cool new thing that we haven't seen before. It's usually like, oh, this person rear naked choked someone. So it's like not necessarily the finish that's that exciting.
Yeah, it's how they got there, how they did like the lead up to the sequences. So Pedro Machado versus Mason Fowler. Mason Fowler is the current 205-pound champion. He's again going against Pedro Machado here. He takes a clean unanimous decision victory. Austin, you had some points for like some technical pieces that you wanted to run through.
Yeah, I can run through round by round if you want.
Let's
just
run
like a couple of hits. So like in the first round, Mason had a pretty clean single leg takedown, and he kind of used, there's a lot of standing. Mason was using that sort of tie clinch, like 2 hands on the back of the crown of the head just to tire him out.
We're seeing more and more guys go to that, and I saw a ton of where it's like Austin and I talked about this on the pre-show for like, it's not really a thing we see a ton in wrestling. It's a thing we're starting to see way more in BJJ, and the problem is it's both guys doing the double collar tie over the top of the head.
I think really just Mason did it to Pedro. I don't think
Maybe I'm thinking in the third round. We saw it more in the third.
It was in every round that Mason did it to Pedro.
Okay.
Pedro kind of put both hands on Mason's shoulders. But he didn't really clinch him back. But in any case, a lot of hard collar ties and a lot of double clinching the head seems to be like the meta for any match that goes past 10 minutes. Like any like black belt no-gi match that's like sub only, you're gonna see it a lot if like the wrestling is not the focal point.
Yeah, it's just really boring to me because we're seeing it more and more, and like generally from it, nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
Especially if both guys are good or both ladies are good.
Yeah.
That double collar tie, that double clinch happens, and then they will go head to head. And then you're going to sit there for the next 45 seconds as they circle move, and they're just going to walk each other around, and nothing is happening. And we see it all across this card.
Yeah, oddly enough, it seems like the person who you would think is the better wrestler tends to do it because it's going to tire the person out. So when they eventually do pull to guard, because they just don't want anyone wearing on their head.
Mm-hmm.
Then their endurance is sapped before they can get anything going. So
Yeah.
we saw Mason doing that in every round. In the second round, Pedro finally does pull because of that kind of pressure for 5-10 minutes.
Also to get something going, you're like,
Yeah,
you're not
exactly.
having a ton of success on the feet. Fowler,
Yeah,
we know Fowler is the better
If
wrestler.
you've been taken down once, then you have to make something happen. So he pulls. Mason ends up getting like chest to chest. He ends up almost passing to mount. He had like a Kimura attempt that didn't really go anywhere. It was like a T Kimura kind of setup, but Pedro gets out pretty easily.
That whole sequence is like the biggest, like, cool. He goes to the ground and then Fowler getting past. So it's like right now, you give Fowler 2 of the rounds.
Yeah, so going to the third round, he's up 2, and kind of peters out from there. I think there was a drag to double leg that was pretty slick that Mason hits in the last round.
Yep.
But then in the scramble, they end up neutral, so like nothing really happens. But Mason did initiate that, so like if that's the only thing that happens in the third round, then Mason wins pretty clearly that unanimous decision.
And I think there's no controvery here with
not
the
at
decision.
all.
Mason takes it on those pieces, but it's I don't really have much more on this. My question would be like, who do you give Mason Fowler? Like who can make 205 that's in your roster? Because right now we still don't have a roster of who's on UFC BJJ.
Right.
We still don't know who's like under contract. We don't know much about the back end of the sport, which from like an entertainment perspective, I think hampers it even more because it's like, I don't even know who Mason Fowler could go against.
Right.
Because like, I don't know who's on the roster. Who can they bring in? Like, I don't know. So now right now he has this belt and you're like, is he going to defend the belt? Is he not going to defend the belt? Do you have a guy?
That's kind of the problem with the league as a whole. If you think about it, it's like, okay, we have this league set up where you can win, what they want to be a prestigious title.
Right.
But then it's like, we don't know who you're going to go against. And all those other people who aren't going to be here are fighting for other titles that people care about. Like if I said world champion, how long would it take for you to name all the UFC BJJ champions, right? Like you could. I'm sure you could.
Yeah, right now
but it would
there's
take
like
you a
6 of them.
second.
Yeah.
Who's number one? It seems like a more prestigious title, in my opinion.
Yeah, no.
Than UFC BJJ is currently.
Because generally they have a longer standing history. They have, generally speaking, a ranking system exists.
The question to answer for UFC BJJ is, how do you pull the talent away from these other more prestigious things to make your title as prestigious enough to have the guys to make matchups that make sense? And it's kind of this circular thing where it's like, we need to get better guys, but they're doing other things. But here's a title. Okay, well, they don't want to do that because this isn't a title that matters to them.
Yeah.
And
so you incentivize them with money, which they have the money to do it, but I think right now we're in this weird spot where they haven't reached that critical line to be able to get the guys that make the most sense to have these matchups in consistently enough. So as a result, all the title pictures are just weird and it's early UFC where you're like, that guy fought for a title? You're like, oh, that's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's still early, so I'm not begrudging it. It's not like a begrudging thing, but it's like, how do you get viewership when you don't have the matchups that people want to see? And then how do you draw the people that people want to see if, like I said, it's circular. How do you make one happen before the other? Yeah. It's a difficult question to answer.
So with all that shit talked, move on to the next match, which is co-main event, which is Cassia Moura versus Ffion Davies. This is a phenomenal matchup to make. This is, for me, honestly, one of the most exciting matchups they could have made for across the women's divisions in the sport as a whole. You have Ffion Davies, longstanding champion, ADCC, CJI, one super fight champion versus Mackenzie Dern. Fion's IBJJF world champion, just generally speaking, has won all the titles and won all of them very recently. At one point, Polaris champ, Grapple, she's done everything. She's won everything. And you have Cassia Moura, the stratospheric rise from blue belt to black belt in 3 years, and then has gone on to place at black belt world events. And you're like, oh, you are the real deal, and you are the one in a billion that could have ever actually made this happen, with that rise under Bruno Bastos. This honestly played out a bit like we talked about it playing out last week, which was if Cassia Moura can just keep a higher level of activity and pacing, she can win a decision here versus Ffion Davies. She wins a split decision.
Yeah.
Versus Ffion Davies. This is 135, I think?
135, yep.
So bantamweight title for the UFC. She's the inaugural women's bantamweight champion for the UFC. This featured more of Ffion playing guard than I expected, but I was surprised that not surprised. Ffion was able to sweep, but the sweeps almost seemed so effortless that almost weren't important, I think, in the criteria for the decision. Which
Yeah.
was interesting. I saw that. I was like, well, that was a good sweep. But it was so good that I almost like didn't even consider it as a scoring criteria. It's like, hey, you got on top. Like,
Yeah.
now we're back into what is happening in this match. Like, the sweep almost means nothing because she executed it so well, which is a really weird way to think about it. But in this rule set where, again, I don't have super consistent understanding of what the judging and the scoring criteria is, even if they flash it on the screen,
Sure.
we see it in practice and it's a little different. And so I don't have good clarity on, like, does a sweep mean anything in the UFC BJJ?
True.
And in our sport it does.
Right.
But this is like a weird pro arm of the sport. My question is like, well, does it mean anything?
Yeah, you have to assume that all of the jiu-jitsu scoring criteria across the board in any sort of
Like point
venue,
system?
yeah, any point system or anything that scores anything or any kind of criteria is something that they probably have to consider. Like, but you don't know how heavily it's weighted.
Right.
So it's difficult to say because it became a split decision, which is part of their rule set to make it like the MMA scoring, which I think is also kind of a mistake for the later rounds. And what I mean by that is if you're up 2-0, just like in MMA, you can kind of coast in your last round and the last person has to like finish you. So it's like it doesn't necessarily make
the third round
matches
can
that
become
exciting.
meaningless very easily.
Yes.
And that is a third of the match. And
Right.
generally in grappling, like, it is important to not have boring rounds, and
Right.
you're incentivized to sort of status quo, or even like just play defensively, play
For sure.
soundly
like
defensively.
not get submitted, which is different
Yeah.
than not getting knocked out.
Right. Because a lot of times in MMA, you don't want to play defensively because, like, you'll change your strategy that was working
sure.
and give opportunities that you haven't seen before to your opponent, and then you can get
For
knocked
sure.
out or
The
something.
potential's there anyway.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
in jiu-jitsu, I find, especially at this level, that is just less of the case.
Yeah, it's
Where
easier
like
to stall someone when it's just grappling. I say
Yeah.
just grappling, but only grappling.
only grappling. So what you had some more technical notes on the match?
You have a bunch.
whole.
I think this was probably the best, like you said. I think this was the best match on the card.
Yeah, I think easily this was the best match on the card. I
and it
think
had the most
easily.
technical things you could take away from. I think this and the Joel match probably had the most technical things that, like, if you're watching like a nerd,
Yeah.
you could take the most from. I won't go round by round. I'll just kind of talk about like some of the highlights of things that I saw. Cassia kind of kept going to the well on this arm drag, kind of slide by style single leg on
She's
Ffion.
been hitting everyone with that, which
She
makes
face planted
sense.
Ffion a couple of times with it.
Yeah. That's one of the things I was really impressed about is like Fion's not someone that typically is not out of her depth is the way to put that, but like in the takedown, she's not usually losing takedown
Yeah,
exchanges.
for sure. She has
in
a really high
grand-
judo pedigree.
Yes.
Which I think might have gotten her in trouble in the first round, like the early part of the match. So in the first round, I said I was going to go round by round, but now I am.
Hey, we're here.
Yeah. So she had this arm drag to single that was really pretty, and then she went right into like a knee cut and like some body lock pass attempts. None of them were successful. Ended up back standing again, but that was like really telling like what her game plan was. And then they were standing again neutral, and she goes for the same sort of drag, but then ends up in a body lock, and Ffion kind of tries to go Uchimata, ends up getting taken down.
Yep.
That was really cool to see. It's like, okay, we're watching in real time. Ffion started to adjust, like kind of like she's trying different things against the strat that already worked on her once.
Yeah.
And through the match, you kind of see Ffion kind of getting more and more hip to this drag that she keeps going back to.
This sequence here was my favorite thing because again, you saw it round by round, attempt by attempt. It's like Cassia Moura does it very well.
Yeah.
But there is not a whole lot of variation in the way that she.
I thought the opposite.
Okay, keep going.
So
I thought Ffion was figuring out because like it
she
was a very
figuring
similar.
it out. The setup was the same.
Yeah.
But then, so it was cool to see them kind of back and forth work out what the next step in this progression was going to be.
Yes.
So like in the first round, we saw single leg, and then Ffion kind of ended up getting back to neutral. She tried a body lock, that worked, and then she tried double leg, which worked, and then she tried a teleport kind of knee cut pass. But Ffion kind of escapes when she tries to teleport pass. She kind of just like posts on her shoulder and gets up. But it's like, okay, so we saw 3 different versions off the same setup. So in the first round alone, Cassia Moura tries arm drag to single leg, arm drag to body lock, and arm drag to double leg. And that's just the first round.
Yeah.
She hasn't tried any of the inside trip stuff that we typically see or outside trip stuff that we typically see.
That wasn't in the first round. I think I had my rounds wrong then, which
Those
is why
3 were
'cause I
the-
thought that was. I
Yeah.
thought she goes inside trip as
She typically does, which
right. I thought that was in the
like that
first round. That
Marcelo
was in the second
style,
round.
like pull, and then like your shoulder kind of hits them as you inside trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
that one.
I don't think she did that in the match at all, if I remember correctly. But in any case,
I'm going to my mind's eye. I'm like, I thought you
just
did,
in the
but I don't
first
know.
round, the big thing from that first round was she tried 3 different variations on the same thing, and you're watching Ffion react in real time to those things, which is super interesting to me. So then by the second round, she face plants Ffion with the same kind of arm drag. It's like the kind of like slide by arm drag where you put your rear foot out as you drag by them. But Ffion gets up on top from like a back take attempt, like a poor back take attempt. And then in the second drag that she tries in the round, Ffion actually doubles her into her closed guard. So that was really cool. It's like, oh, like you've turned the corner on this movement. And now you have like a viable thing to do. Cassia ends up getting a sweep from X that puts her back on top to close out the round. So that second round's really close. I think you could kind of go either way depending on what you want to score.
Yeah, that's sort of one of my frustrations is like, and that was like, because Fion's takedown was like the biggest moment of this round. It's like she kind of blasts her across the bowl to get her down, and I went, okay. And then the round ends. I was like, okay, Cassia had some good moments too. What was closer here? Like, I just have no idea. There's not really a sub attempt.
Nope.
There's not really a back take. There's kind of like this is my main frustration with these kind of rule sets is you have really good moments from both athletes, and then I'm sitting at the end of the round like, I have no idea who you'd give that to.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I can make an argument for either one based on what happened, but I'm sitting there like, as a viewer, like I do not know which one of these mattered more because there's like no points, there's no like criteria available to me as a viewer to look at or understand other than like, well, maybe that was the more important thing in this rule set.
Yeah, it comes down to like, what do you like more? It's like, oh, I like aggressive guard passing. Oh, I like takedowns more. I like sweeping more. It's like, well, okay, but that's just you. That has nothing to do with any criteria.
And that's like that was partially my frustration at the end of that second round was just like I don't know.
I have no idea how you would score that second round.
Who won that round?
Yeah,
and it's not because like I didn't understand what happened.
For sure,
it's like I don't understand what you as the UFC care about in your organization. Yeah, and like the guys judging it, what do they care? Like, what is your criteria?
Yeah,
this was a great round. In any other organization, this would be that we understand better. This would be a very easy round to pick. Like, yep, you did this, this is what mattered. Like, but in the UFC, we watch a really high level match like this, and I'm like, I don't know who won that because I don't know what you care about. That was for me really frustrating.
So if we're in the third round now, we had Cassia. We'll say she won the first one.
Yep.
Second one, kind of a toss up round.
Yep.
And this third round, I also thought was kind of a toss up. I'd probably give the nod to Cassia because she had the most clean arm drag takedown. Ffion did have kind of a Kyotera outside, like the De La Hiva kind of ankle lock attempt. Yeah. It didn't really go very far.
She didn't really ever get to the
like,
point
that's
where
a sub attempt. Like, do you, and
exactly.
then back to your main point, do you count that sub attempt as something that is equally weighted to a takedown? Is it more than a takedown? Who knows? So I think Cassia probably got that round, which kind of sealed it for her. That's why she ended up getting the split decision. I'm trying to think if there's anything else in that round. Oh, there's like Ffion did have a Uchimata, like a pretty clean Uchimata
and that's
attempt.
Like, to your point earlier of like you're watching Ffion figure out because Cassia
really
is
cool.
showing her the same she's doing different stuff with the arm drag entry, but Ffion eventually like sees in the third round here, she sees the entry happening and she's like cool, and she like changes the range and forces Cassia to like come up into it, and then Ffion like uses and leverages the judo to get her over, and I was like, oh cool. I wonder if given more time you could turn this into a more successful sequence, because again, this is sort of when you look at like the veteran grappler in Ffion versus like the phenom younger grappler in Cassia. It's like cool, Cassia is very, very good at this one thing, and she has some nuance to it. But you're a veteran, eventually, it's like, hey, man, if you just show it to me 8 times, eventually you most likely as the younger fighter are going to run out of things that you can do with this, and I will just have more experience. I can beat you. It's like, cool, I've now seen the things and the variations of how you do this, and now I can throw my additional experience against this and beat it. And that was why I liked that Uchimata sequence at the end. Was like, oh, this is Ffion having now figured out exactly how Cassia is beating her.
Yeah,
with
her
this.
double and the Uchimata attempt were like probably like the most telling for like how game and how much of a veteran Ffion actually is. But then it's also like, well, okay, UFC BJJ is still developing. Like, we'll probably see this as a rematch, and I'd be down to watch it.
I would down to watch it. I'd love to watch it. It was it's a split decision, which we talked about this years ago, should never happen technically, because that means that someone saw it wrong. I mean, your criteria isn't clear enough. If one judge is scoring it the other way, like that means your criteria is bad. or your judging is bad. And we can have arguments about that
Sure.
till the cows come home. But it's like that we have 2 split decisions on this card in both of the women's matches, which kind of makes me go, interesting.
Yeah, for 2 matches that were very different from each other as well.
Yes.
So.
And so again, Cassia Moura takes it. Do you have any other pieces that you want from a technical perspective on it?
No, I think that's the main takeaways. It was just like the arm drag versus like figuring out the arm drag was interesting to watch.
So now do we see potentially Anna Rodriguez versus Cassia Moura? Was that 35 or 25? I forget what weight Jasmine's at. I forget what weight. I don't have it in my
Probably
notes
35,
here.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I would love to see Jasmine. We've seen Jasmine versus Ffion.
That's why I assumed 35, but
I don't know. I thought that one was at 25, and I don't remember.
could be right.
Realistically, Jasmine has been injured and is back. I would want to see Jasmine. I would want to see that match in a year because I think in a year Ffion will be like, unfortunately, like a little further into her career. The speed is going to start dipping, and I think it's going to make the matchup a lot more close. Right now, I don't know if that match would look any different between Jasmine and Ffion.
Yeah.
But I think in a year, it's like Jasmine will get more experience, and Ffion will become even more of a veteran there. I think it's like, that could be a much, much closer matchup as we watch Fion's style kind of develop as she gets older, and Jasmine's style develop in like as she kind of moves into her prime. So that was that match. Again, it was the best match on the card
for sure.
It is the one that you should go back and watch on YouTube. It was fun. Moving on to this match. The rematch between Elder Cruz and Nicky Rodriguez. This happened in 2022. It was probably one of the worst matches that Who's Number One has had. And that's not just hyperbole. Like it is a 15-minute match where there's like 2 takedowns, and it's mainly it's just a glacial match.
Yeah.
With very little activity, almost no mat work whatsoever. It ends in a majority draw, which I thought was really just made me giggle. Nicky Rodriguez loses the first 2 rounds and then win maybe 10-8 the second round. Or the third round.
Yeah, the third round. The third round had the biggest sequence. There was a good double from Cruz in the first round. I think that's kind of probably won him that first round.
You 10-9 it because again you did something and
happened.
You got him down, and that was like, okay.
Yeah, second round's pretty not memorable. I think it was kind of just like back and forth with the exchanges of just like who's gonna pull, who's gonna stand.
Yeah, and Rodriguez, we see him pull there.
Yeah.
In the second round, but not really do much with it, and then a little bit of backing up.
He gets up to like 3-point stance a lot to like maybe like a counter wrestle from like seated. But
one piece I wanted to bring up in the Cassia match was I was surprised how often Cassia was like backing out of Fion's guard and like completely kind of disengaging and like resetting it. It was just an interesting feature. We saw that we see this happen a lot in like pro nogi, and it's the only other point I wanted to bring up in that match where I was like, she kept doing that. So back to Elder Cruz and Nicky Rodriguez round 2.
Yeah, the round 2 is that's pretty much it. It's like not memorable. So you can kind of go either way on that one, in my opinion. And then round 3, the coolest sequence that happened for Nicky Rod by far, in my opinion, is he had a sprawl from like he sprawled from a Elder Cruz double. That ended up in like a front head sort of situation. He ended up getting breaking him down to a body lock in half, and he nearly passed him out. And then that body lock pass goes to north-south with like 90-ish seconds left in the match.
He has enough. I thought it was less than that, but he had. I remember him going. I was like, okay, he has enough time to make something work here, but also Elder Cruz is diligent enough where it's like,
I think if
he has the defensive chops to stop this.
Sure, like a sub was kind of out the window. It's like really just like, can you make something happen, just to make it look, like you said before.
Can you 10-8 him enough? Like, can you
do something more than not at all in the last couple seconds to put it in like the judge's head before they give you the decision?
This is such a funny thing because this reminded me of in gamesmanship the match that he had at the end of CJI 2 versus Luke Griffith, where it's like you just have to put a stamp on this in order to like 10-8 him to win this. And Nicky Rodriguez kind of does the same thing. When the chips are down, the dude can deliver.
Yeah.
But the first 2 rounds of this were kind of just not entertaining.
You give Elder the first round because you had the double, but that was pretty much it in that first round. Second round, kind of nothing happened. And then with like 10 seconds left in the third round, Nicky gets into like a kind of a cross ashi sort of setup, and he takes several cracks at like a heel knee bar, which is pretty cool. But like, there's 10
it didn't look
left.
like he was. It looked like it looked like had he gotten there with 30 seconds, he might have had the time to like lift his legs up and get to get higher on the knee line.
Maybe so.
But he just didn't have the knee line that he needed to put Cruz away here.
I also think if, I don't know, 10 seconds left and you know it's going to go to a decision and you think that first round's enough to carry you, or the first round's enough to carry you, you're probably not going to tap. When your career's on the line and your reputation's on the line.
Yeah, and also like Nick Rodriguez is super, super strong, but not known to be the best leg locker in the world. Like again, Cruz has fought Couch. Sure, good Couch beat him by leg lock, but Cruz has fought very good leg lockers. Rodriguez has fought very good leg lockers, but does have his own leg lock wins, but is not specifically known as like a super dangerous leg locker. He's gotten better, but yeah, I agree. Like Cruz was doing the right things to get out of that. With the bowl, it's always a possibility because we can get like another Harrison Gaber versus Mikey Musumeci where like the bowl kind of stops Harrison from rolling and Mikey gets the leg lock. But it ends as a majority draw, which I just found funny because majority draws are always just a weird,
I don't know what you could tell that both of them were disappointed, which is like, I guess that's a draw then. If you're both thinking that you're going to win and you both don't. Yeah. I guess that's the best case.
So this is listed as a majority draw, which means that 2 of the 3 judges gave it as a draw. And so your third judge doesn't matter who you get. I forget who the third judge gave it to, but like the 2 of the 3 judges have it as a draw. It is a draw. So realistically, we have 3. We have a split decision, we have a majority draw, and a split decision, which means we have 1 dissenting judge in every single one of those matchups. Because if you had a majority draw, means 2 of them. A straight draw means all 3 judges scored it as a draw. And you can have a split draw, which is going to be somebody gives it to one guy, somebody gives it to the other guy, and then there's a draw in the middle. So again, a majority draw shouldn't happen either. Yeah. Because you have criteria. So it's like we almost have half of the matches in this card that end via like one of the judges sees this differently. Yeah. It's not a 15-fight card. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches. Almost half of them end with one of the judges seeing it differently. That's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And then you have a sub. So it's like potentially half of your matches ended up in like, you have criteria that is so wonky that no one can make a solid decision on who wins the matchup. So again, it's not a huge problem with this one. I don't want to see this one run back. No. We've seen it twice. I think Rodriguez...
At least not under this rule set for sure.
I think Rodriguez needs to do more early and can win this consistently. Because when it goes to the mat, he can beat Elder Cruz. For sure. But the problem is Elder Cruz is really, really good at keeping you out of the range that you need to work at and occupy. Again, he's one of the best guys in the world. Yeah. I think Elder Cruz might be better at that range management than Pedro Machado. Like if you want to like stall a match out, maybe Elder Cruz is phenomenal at that. He is allowed to play that in a lot of rule sets. Again, I wish that was a rule set fix, but I can't fault Elder Cruz because he's phenomenal at that. He's phenomenal at keeping you out of that match. When it goes, again, Rodriguez most likely takes a 10-8 there to majority draw it, but that's a feature of the rule set. Yep. So anything else on this one?
No, that's really all I had on that one.
Next one, the only sub on the card. We have Mayweather McQueen. That's how I'm going to pronounce it. We, as a collective community, do not have a firm handshake on how to say Mayhem's name.
I like saying Mayhem because it sounds cool.
Mayhem does sound cool. Did they call him Mayhem on this one?
They called him Mayhem, and then I think you do pronounce his last name McKinney, but I don't know.
McKinney. I think it is. I've heard him say McKinney too. Yeah. I'm going to call him Mayweather McQueen.
I'm going to call him Mayweather forever, but Mayhem
one day cool. I'm going to interview him and I'll be like, hey man, how do we do it? I did that with Kynan Duarte and he was like, either's fine. Yeah. And I was like, Kynan, I need you to like is it Kanan or is it Kynan? And he was like, either's fine. And I was like, man, I need you to just make a decision so I can give
every Brazilian I've ever talked to with an R sound in their name, they're like, it's fine. Everyone that I've ever talked to. I mean, that's not a big enough sample size to say every Brazilian by far. But is it Roger or Hodger? Yep. Okay, man.
Dude. Yeah. So,
in any case,
one day I will interview him and I will ask him, or just run into an event and be like, please, for the love of God, we cover you enough. What is your name? Yeah. Defeats Marcos Mendes via armbar in round 2. Mayrim's really good. He's one of the best guys in the world with the lower weight classes. Gi and Nogi. He's better in Gi. But still been looking phenomenal in Nogi. I want to see him face Owen Jones in Nogi.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Because Owen Jones has a loss to him in the Gi that the BJJ, one of the recent BJJ stars. And I'm like, okay, I want to see it now run back
For sure.
in Nogi.
For sure.
What do you got on this one?
So this was the only one that ended up in sub, like you said. I think in the first round, Mendes had a lot of leg lock attempts, which I think Mayrim's kind of just like playing to see what he could do. I'm not saying like he was doing anything like super dominant. He was definitely being the one engaged. He was being the one who was like being threatened by the leg locks.
Yeah.
But I think after you kind of like crack the code on, okay, I feel pretty safe, is when he kind of opened up a little bit. Because we've seen Mayrim against like lower level talent than him, like throw flying arm bars. We've seen him kind of go a little wilder on like sub attempts. And then in the second round, where he catches,
we know him as like a high flying guy. That's like
he's got his
really
frequent
gonna
flyer
throw.
mile card for sure.
Yes.
And so in the second round, when Mayhem finally starts passing his guard, he does like a throws the legs by to get the pass, ends up in mount, and then he gets that near side figure four over the shoulder sort of arm lock, like a kind of flash arm bar. Like if you don't get it, like they're gonna get out.
Yeah. It's a high risk, high reward arm lock.
Yeah, but he definitely had it dialed in. He had the elbow clearly over the hip line. Like it was pretty. But I don't know. You could probably give the first round to Mendes for just engagement.
I kind of did.
Yeah.
I went like so in my head again. Whenever we have a mismatch up like this, where it's like, okay, your mainstay guy versus another good guy, but like whenever you book like Nick Rodriguez versus a guy that's like not of Elder Cruz's level, you're like, okay, Rodriguez is the guy that I'm looking for. Like, how does he? I always look at it like, okay, did your champion level, did your big guy win that round, or did the other guy win it? And if so, like how? This was one where I went, okay, did Mayrim win that round, or did he lose, and then how? And I was like, I don't know if I can see given this round, because it's like he didn't do anything like poorly, but it was just Marcos just kept a better pace and was more active on the legs. We go back to criteria where it's like I don't know what the UFC BJJ is looking for.
No idea.
But generally, Marcos Mendes, I think, did more in the first round, and then Mayrim figured him out and then puts him away in the second. And that second round was very clearly like Mayrim had figured him out, and you're like, okay, Mayrim clearly is going to win this second round, and then ends it via sub.
Yep. So that's really all I had on the technical end for that. But yeah, the only sub on the card. So if you're looking for any sub, that's the only place to find it.
Yeah, again, and maybe no Mayrim is good. Let's move on to the not rubber match, just third match between Anna Rodriguez and Jasmine Hosha. The first time that Anna Rodriguez has beat Jasmine Hosha. Jasmine Hosha up to this one was 2-0 against Anna Rodriguez. They were both close matches. I don't remember the first match. I remember the South American Trials match is the one that I rewatched recently. Great, poor camera work, kind of hard to see, but very, very back and forth match. This is a split decision, which again means one judge saw it differently. Anna Rodriguez takes this one over Jasmine Hosha. I don't really have a problem with the result.
No, I think the most memorable thing, this is going to be a quick blurb on my end for this one. There was just like a near pass from Anna late in the second round that ended up making Jasmine turtle, and she's up in like kind of like a leg drag sort of scenario, and then just a scramble to get on top. Like that was kind of like the only action that really happened, so it kind of favors Anna in that, but. Other than that, it was like a lot of standing, kind of hand fighting, not a ton of action. So it's hard to see.
Their previous matches. Again, this is another one that was. It looks like someone went to BJ Heroes and went, "Who wants to get one back over Jasmine Hosha? We're about to announce her dad for the title. It's good to have him here. We'll put him here so we can announce him for the title versus William Tackett." And then they got Anna Rodriguez in it. The matchup, because they're both in a similar place in their career, makes sense, but they have not historically delivered really exciting matches. Yeah. And that's another, and they kind of did that here. Where
that's on the matchmaker to, go back and actually watch the matches to see if they're exciting. Not just, oh, you have a win, now you have a loss. Like, okay, rubber match. Like, no, that's not really the...
And, in other sports, that is, again, in MMA, that can be... because you only have a couple of fights a year, those wins and losses mean so much. In jiu-jitsu, dog, you beat him in a tournament, maybe it's a big tournament, maybe next time you see him, you beat, it's the losses and the wins, you are not going to have an undefeated grappler.
For sure.
It doesn't happen.
Right.
In MMA, you can be undefeated, and that's, a big deal. But in grappling, you're just going to have wins and losses. And so, like, looking at it just on, like, when's the last guy to beat him is, like, in our sport is, for me, like, so much less interesting because it's like,
and even looking at it, like,
wins and losses.
Close match doesn't necessarily even tell the tape of a grappling match a lot of times for, like, IBJJF, for example. So let's say, like, I don't know, we're having a crazy back and forth match, and in the last 2 minutes, you take me down and pass my guard. It's like, cool, well, like, now you've beaten me 5-0, even though I got nearly, close to maybe doing the same to you, but just wasn't successful.
Nearly took my head off with 2 earlier arm bars, and then I passed and
maybe the ads were something very significant.
Yes.
Maybe you have to watch the matches and actually know jiu-jitsu to see who would be exciting to see against each other.
It looks like that's not happening.
Exactly.
So again, Anna Rodriguez now has a win over Jasmine Hoxha. It will most likely at one point be run back again in either a tournament format or another pro event.
Sure.
Like they are very close. Again, split decision means somebody saw it wrong, but it also means that it is very close because someone could see it wrong.
Yeah.
Again, I don't have much tech on this one because it was kind of like their South American trials match. It was just like your small margins. They both thought they won at the end, and a split decision.
Right.
Let's move on to Devontae Johnson versus Lucas Norat. This was, again, we've always talked about Devontae. I always have a problem with the level of pacing Devontae puts on guys.
Yeah.
But this match was, in stretches, better for that, mainly because at 2 points in the match, he actually goes for a sub.
Yeah.
He goes for that anaconda.
Yeah, in the first round, he had what looked like a pretty tight anaconda. Lucas was doing like that self-framing where he pushes against his own palm to kind of give his neck some space to like not get choked. But that was pretty much the biggest thing that happened. Devontae also had like a pretty cool like cement mixer kind of takedown, like almost like a throw. But it happened. This is what's interesting about having these different sorts of venues, like having a bowl versus a ring or a cage or a mat space or an elevated mat space. It's cool to have this bowl where you can have the verticality dynamic. So
you had over someone.
Yeah, Lucas was kind of slightly higher than when Devontae was in the bowl. So it's like, okay, well, if I can move him to get him to take a couple steps, he's going to have to stumble forward because he's on a steeper footing than I am. So then it's like I already have an off balance just by the verticality nature of like the side of the wall.
The arena that we're competing in creates this for me.
Yeah, which is interesting. It's like if you can get somebody to if you can pressure somebody enough to walk into the wall, like it's not like what people think. They think it's like a cage wall where like you're going to put your back into it or like you're going to like have your butt hit the wall. It's like, no, you can walk up it.
Yeah,
but walking up it backwards isn't the problem. Walking forward is because you can't control your fall as much as you'd want to if somebody pulls you.
Yes.
It's like if someone pulls you down steps.
So we had a pit at the last gym. And I remember right around CGI, right after CGI won, I remember mucking around on it and figuring out, it's like, because you and I both, you did MMA, like you actually fought. I just trained it. And you figure out wall work.
Yeah, for sure.
You spend time on the wall and you figure out how like it works and how to use it and how to bounce off of it and like how to grapple on the wall. And then I was like, cool, I've done this before. Like I'm not great at it, but like I've done the classes, I've done the work, I've put the gloves on, and like I have wall worked. And then you run into like the pit wall for CGI, and you're like, oh, this has some of the same rules.
It's very different,
but it's very different because your feet, like you can't lean your shoulders into it.
Yeah.
And for almost all wall work, you're constantly leaning your shoulders and pushing your hips forward away from it to like drive into someone. As soon as you get up on the pit wall or on the bull wall or any of like angled pit or wall, suddenly you're like, oh, I can't drive into you here. I have to like lean on you. And that is very different than driving against you, where it's like the guy has to carry your weight, but not in a way that is like beneficial to you necessarily.
Right.
It's like you are now beholden to like where they put you here, and you have to be very, very careful with how you do it. So it's interesting, again, that sequence we saw from Devontae here was like, oh, this is a sequence that only exists in this sort of arena.
Yeah, I think when you have a strength mismatch, and this is for like future competitors if they're going to be in a slant wall sort of situation, it makes sense to pressure someone even if your wrestling is not as good as theirs, or it is better than theirs for sure, to pressure them against the edges to make them have to step up the wall, because then it gives you like almost like a free chicken sorts of off balances. So that was really all that happened with that match. There was like a last minute kind of face crush from Devontae. that I'm assuming scored.
I like Devontae. I liked in this match, Devontae looked like he was trying to put Lucas Norrat away.
For sure.
That has not been the case in a bunch of Devontae matches. Again, Devontae is so good, but he frustrates me because sometimes the level of pace that he puts on guys and like he's so risk averse in a lot of ways that we never see him work towards the finish. It was nice to see him actually in this match working towards the finish on Lucas Norrat. So that was like my main takeaway.
When you compete it under the IBJJF rule set, where you score and then it's like, okay, well now the impetus is on them to score back.
Yes.
And if I don't score again, I win.
Yeah.
I think he's done a ton of IBJJF
stuff.
Yeah. So it's like, and he's a bigger dude too. I think he's like 250, or that was his build weight for this.
230, 250, whatever.
He was big for this one.
I remember when I interviewed Devontae, he was not that big. He was also a brown belt.
When he was a brown belt, he wasn't as big as he is now. And he's a school owner now too.
Yeah.
So it's like, and this is not to say anything bad about his condition.
He's also not in his 20s anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
he didn't look tired necessarily. I'm not saying that, or to talk, down on his conditioning. But when you're a big person, like, you should use that to your advantage. You should definitely make someone else carry your weight, and that's going to make for more boring matches. So I kind of understand his game plan there.
And he wins. And that's also, again, I in some rule sets I fault Devontae for, but generally speaking, the dude knows how to win. It's not necessarily the most exciting. So I was appreciative of the couple of times here when he did go for give us a little more insight in his game. Like on Polaris, he looks great. Like in the Polaris matches, he's good. But a lot of other matches, we don't see the depth of his game here. And it was nice for him to show us some more pieces of his game.
Yeah, for sure.
In a way that I am always concerned when we're covering Devontae, he is not going to do.
Yeah.
So credit where credit's due. Again, very clean unanimous decision win over Lucas Norrat. Biggest item was that second round. First round, second round.
That was in the first round, the Anaconda.
Yeah, the Anaconda choke. And that really set the tone for, it's like, cool, Devontae is very clearly in the driver's seat here.
Yep.
He's very clearly won this round. If he does what he does and stays on top here, he is going to win.
Yep.
And that's what he did.
Yep.
Another interesting match on this card was João Miyao versus Jussier Formiga. I thought this one was really fun. I think this was in this match because I literally this Friday, you were in my class on Friday, taught the double under passing, and we saw that in this match, and we saw the low gripping on the thighs that I was talking about when I was teaching it. We didn't see, I think it was it Formiga or was it Miyao? I forget who was passing in this sequence. I think it was Formiga. Was like super low on João Miyao's legs and not up at his knees, because if you get up to someone's knees, they're going to push away. And Formiga was doing the pass correctly. And it was very nice as a coach to be reinforced on I taught it like at the highest levels, even though technically this was the day before, I just hadn't watched it yet. At the highest levels, like the technique that I was like explaining, I'm seeing it. And it was very nice to have that moment for me. What do you got on this one?
I think the biggest takeaway of the match in general was watching Joao's guard retention using K-guard and Keymaster, like underhook K-guard, to start his submission attempts. So once he frees his underside leg when he's in that K-guard sort of position, he tried an armbar that ended up putting him on top side that got him like a solid armbar attempt.
Yeah.
That was probably the best sub attempt of the match. But he had a couple of other ones where he was trying to like entangle the legs, and if he couldn't entangle the legs, it was kind of that like high-low sort of back and forth A-B sort of jab cross sort of movement of like, let me attack the upper body. Okay, no armbar, cool. I'll go back to the legs. So that was really cool to see.
It was nice to see him not get tunnel visioned in one like area where it's like, cool, man, you're only going for the legs. Formiga's defending them. He's cross facing you, pushing you down. It was like, oh, cool, like you're not going to let me get your leg. Cool, back to the guard. Now playing a high guard. Now playing an open guard.
Yeah, I also was really interesting to me that he didn't try that many back take attempts like they would in the past. Like both the Miyao brothers are pretty well known from like boloing from like any kind of inversion or like any kind of like a cool looking
everywhere.
Back take.
Like everywhere. That was what they were known for at Purple to Black was
for sure.
That like bear and bolo inversion. If you ever gave them too much space, they would just roll underneath you. And
it makes me wonder if it's more a function of gi versus no gi, or if it's more just like his game's evolving, or just like decision making. Like, if I can get leg locks in a no-gi sort of sub-only format, it makes more sense to go for leg locks than to try to take the back. Maybe. I don't know what his decision making was.
I think really what it is like I think his game has changed, and in no-gi, it's like we see him berimbolo less in no-gi because the gripping sequences aren't there, and he's also less willing to throw it because he knows his guard is world class.
Yeah, of
and
course.
He can just like make it work.
Yeah, there was one weird moment in this match where they were kind of in a half guard sort of scenario, like maybe like half guard knee shield, And like right as Joao kind of passes it into chest to chest, and Formiga's it looks like he's about to go to deep half. The ref like stops it and stands them up, and you can tell Joao's a little dejected. Like, hey man, like we're both working. Like, why are you standing us up here? And the commentary kind of alluded to this, like, oh, if nothing's happening, they're gonna stand you up. And it's like, well, what does nothing mean? Like, we don't know what the rules are. To your point. Yeah. So it's like, what does nothing mean? Does nothing mean not sub-attempting? Does nothing mean not attempting passing? Because clearly they were both working for something. But I don't know. It kind of bothered me a little bit that like they stopped and stood the matchup.
Something was about to happen. It's like there was another time earlier where nothing was happening. Yeah. And then something's about to happen. And it's like the ref has already made that decision to stop it. And then something's going.
It's also a point to like, if people are moving and ground fighting, standing two guys who don't wrestle back up is not going to make the match more exciting.
Yeah, that's a very funny. We saw this over and over again. It's a very funny. Every time it happens, I just go, no, please figure out another way to incentivize this, because like the last thing I want to see is more of like Elder Cruz and Nicky Rodriguez on the feet again. Yeah, it's like, hey man, don't stand them back up. Like that's an MMA thing, because they can strike, they can do something different. Mm-hmm. There's a level of engagement and action that can happen when they're standing up. Mm-hmm. If they are on the ground, we are grappling please don't stand them up. Like that is an MMA holdover that makes no sense in this sport, because it's like the point of this sport is being on the ground and doing the ground
fighting. If they're working, like obviously, even if nothing's happening,
if they're not working, like tell the guy to work. Like that's things like,
you hit them with penalties, something.
Me standing them back up,
no points.
Is like, cool, now you're forcing him to wrestle, which isn't the current meta of a lot of the divisions in the sport. Yeah. It's like not the focus of most of the guys that we have. So it's an avenue, it's a way that it's a thing that guys can have, but it's like generally the guy that can wrestle better is already gonna be on top anyway. And so it's like, cool, he's gonna get back to top, and like at best case scenario, we get to this same position again on the ground and then we do something with it. Sure. And like at worst case scenario, we stall the rest of the match out on the feet because neither guy's taking down. Like it's such a weird problem that is one of the many problems here of like, stand-up shouldn't be a thing in jiu-jitsu. Like almost no other jiu-jitsu rule set has one. It's like you put them back to where they are. You don't stand them up because you're bored. Yeah, that's an MMA thing.
You give them stall warnings and then you start penalizing them. Yes. But I think in a 10-point must system sort of rule set, telling a ref to take a point away would be so detrimental.
It loses the match. Yeah, in 10-point must system, it's the dumbest rule set for fouls, because it's like you should be able to take a point if someone fouls. Yep. But in a 10-point must system, it's like, cool, that guy, like that is probably a fight-ending thing, because it's like, okay, maybe he loses that one, but now he's down across all the cards 2 points, 100%. And you're like, cool, like he just lost that match.
There's no way he can come back.
Yeah, and so again, the 10-point must system is probably the worst system you could use in general. I think it was also fun in grappling.
I think it was fun in CJI for them to announce it between rounds, because then it made it
open scoring is fine. Like you should have open scoring. Yeah, but the 10-point must system,
10-9 for that too.
They did, but I still think there's so many problems with 10-9.
I don't think 10-9 does grappling justice at all.
It's terrible
because there's no knockdowns in grappling. But anyway,
right? Yeah. Yeah, it works for boxing. Yeah, and even in boxing it makes problems. But also, it's
boxing has its problems.
Yeah, boxing has many problems. But it's like a knockdown is a point, and also you have 8 to 12 rounds, depending 6 to 12 rounds, depending on the fight.
Sure,
that you're going
it averages
to have.
out over time, so you can see who the better person was.
Yeah, you have enough rounds where it's like a guy in boxing can lose a round by by 1 point and then have it be recovered. Right. Whereas MMA and in grappling, it's like you only have 3 rounds. Like, cool, he loses this 1 round. It's like, that is functionally, he has almost lost the fight. He has 1 additional round to do it, and then the fight is over. Even if he does everything and it's a close round, it's like we don't have enough rounds for a 10-point must system to make any sense whatsoever. Sure. Like you don't have 3-round boxing pro fights. Like it's just not a thing, or it is, but only at the lowest levels. So back to Devontae versus Lucas Norat. I was very happy that Devontae, looked for some stuff and made a more exciting match than sometimes he does. Yeah. Sorry, back to Formiga and Joao. You have anything else on the Formiga and Joao match? It was very clearly for me, Joao was the better grappler. Obviously, Jake, you see Formiga as an MMA legend. Yeah. But Joao Miyao is a world champion, and we're in grappling, and so I was happy that GCA looked as good as he did. Yeah. But was not surprising that Miyao had an answer for everything, and then was the one that was able to put up way more submission offense.
Yeah, of course. I think it's going to be interesting because it seems like they're going to try to make Joao and Mikey happen, but it's like based on their logic, it doesn't fit. Like I don't think Joao's ever beaten Mikey, so
No.
I don't see it going differently, but maybe.
I don't see. Meow's retired. I mean, he's been semi-retired for a little bit. He still does tournaments here and there, and like he's out of retirement.
I mean, now that he's signed, they have exclusive contracts, so he's signed with UFC BJJ in the same weight class.
Some of them have exclusive contracts.
Okay,
we don't like it's. There's a ton that we have no idea about on the back end for UFC, and so like hopefully he fights Mikey. I think it's not a bad matchup to make for Mikey.
Name wise, no, I don't know who else there is for Mikey to really fight that makes sense anyway. So it might as well.
So
let's talk about Manuel Hibamar versus Caio Vinicius Santos. This was a unanimous decision for Hibamar.
Mm-hmm.
I watched this like very quickly because it was the first matchup on the card, and I kind of wanted to get later into the card to watch the matchups that were like the co-main main event. I thought Caio won this. And
really?
The commentators were clearly going, and I wanted to just be very upfront with like, I watched this peripherally kind of while I was doing something else and like watching back and forth and looking. So it's like, take all of that with a grain of salt. I'm very probably wrong about this. But when I watched it, the activity that Caio was doing, the leg lock attempts that he was attempting and like versus Hibamar's passing, I was like, okay, this is a guy on the bottom that is looking for submissions for 2 of the rounds, and Hibamar is looking for pass attempts and looking to counter, but not being super successful until the 3rd round. And so in my head, I was like, oh, for Caio, and I hear the commentators were like, oh, clearly Hibamar, and I went, am I stupid?
I definitely thought Hiba won. So it was like so the pass happened in the 2nd round.
Was it the 2nd round?
Yeah,
okay.
There wasn't a whole lot of action. I think Hibamar was in control the entire match. There's some pretty.
I think that's true. I thought in watching this that they were looking for subs.
We're gonna beat this horse to death, but it's like it's another issue with not knowing how the scoring criteria works.
Yeah, maybe
it's
that's
like
what it is.
If you're looking at it from a who had more sub attempts, then I guess you could make an argument for Caio winning.
And that's what I thought the criteria was, so that's why I gave it to him. Yeah, but Hibamar, to your point,
he was
absolutely in control of the entirety of the match. So it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Caio had some K-guard entanglements, some setups, but I don't think any of them were close to a sub.
No.
But he tried subbing. So it's like, do you weight that more than a guard pass?
No, I think.
Do you weight that more than control? Yeah. And it's like, I guess not.
I thought that's why I was confused because I thought the criteria was like activity and submission attempts and then not the positional dominance. I was like, yeah, Hibamar's positionally dominant, but
that's super logical if you're thinking of it from a sub-only rule set.
Right, which is what
submission attempts matter.
Which is what I thought we were in, but
it is, but it's also sub-only with a 10-9 scoring system. So it's like, well,
and
if you
rounds.
Point, so if you're losing rounds on control, you're not winning rounds on sub attempts, or maybe your sub attempts were too sporadic across the rounds versus maybe you had the most sub attempts and the round that you got your guard passed.
Yeah.
Like which one wins?
No,
do you know what I'm saying?
I completely
agree. Cool. Now you've lost 2 rounds because in the first round you didn't have enough sub attempts. It's like one of those weird gray area things with the way that the scoring set up.
So I wanted to just throw that out there that initially in the first match of the card, I'm like, well, I'm thoroughly confused now as guys that have been watching grappling on all rule sets for a decade plus now and like talking about it for that long. It was just weird to open the card up and immediately be confused as to why a guy won.
Yeah.
Especially because generally I have a pretty good idea about it. And I was like, cool, I'm obviously missing criteria here. And that through line was through the entire card of like, we don't have super well defined criteria, and I started the card off with being confused. But again, I see the argument for Hibamar. I understand why he won if that's your criteria,
right?
But I just don't know their criteria.
I still don't feel strongly that that's their criteria necessarily. I think it's kind of just like vibes.
Yeah, it really does seem just like vibes. Again, you have this many split decisions or split draws, like majority draws. Obviously, it's just vibes.
Yeah.
So huge problems with the UFC BJJ that I hope they fix. I hope they fix some of the matchmaking. I hope the matchmaking starts to look at like guys that are interesting in the division that have a style and a game that would be for like Shea Montague and Mikey was like that stylistically. I'm really interested in that. That's a good matchup. Joao and Mikey, like I'm interested for different reasons.
Yeah.
But like, a little less, they may be, but Mikey's also in this weird slot where there's not, I mean, you need to make Mikey Baby Shark.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did that with Baby Shark in 1, but like that's the matchup that you need to be aiming and looking to make.
Yeah.
You need to make Mason Fowler and Nick Rodriguez too. Like that's a matchup that you need to be like that had interesting intrigue that you have already had on Fight Pass Invitational. Like those are the kind of matchups that I want to see. Like Ffion Davies and Cassia Moura. Like those are the ones that you want to make. We know that they can make the good matchups.
Yeah.
You know, they've made Ffion versus Adele, even though that match wasn't particularly interesting when it happened.
Sure.
That was the match to make, that rematch. Like, there's reasons for him, but it's just some of the matchmaking and some of the rule sets is just, it leaves a lot to be desired. And again, they've had 2 events in a row that, generally speaking, the sentiment online has been they weren't. I mean, the sentiment, even with Grappling Rewind with our chat, was like, yeah, it was kind of a meh card.
Yeah.
You know, I just I would expect more from the biggest combat sports, you know, company in the world moving into BJJ. Like, I would just expect something more.
This is a 180 from that, but on the positive side, they do have the UFC dollars behind it to do like have really high production value.
It was produced well. Commentary was bad.
I thought the commentary was regrettable, to be nice about it.
Well, it's like I like
but the camera work was really good, which I was surprised by.
Yes, camera work is always really good usually, which is great.
I'm mostly shocked because the nuance of like jiu-jitsu would require kind of a knowledgeable camera staff. Yeah, and I'm surprised how well they did with it.
Yeah. That was nice. Yeah, commentary again. Kiasa's fine. Din's fine. They are both MMA guys that have very clearly not been following professional jiu-jitsu for the last decade.
Yeah,
and it's very odd to have them on the broadcast when your audience is like grappling people that are going to watch this.
100%.
And then to not have people that really understand what has happened in the last 10 years. Like Din Thomas, he keeps akinning stuff to MMA, and it's like, hey man, none of these guys have fought.
Yeah.
Like, I think, actually, maybe A-Rod has fought, maybe Devontae. Like, hey, they have
Mason Fowler's fought. I think Elder Cruz was interested. Like, a lot of guys were interested in fighting.
A lot of guys have had fights here and there, but like their main thing has
they're
not,
pro grapplers.
Has not been
even if they were, like Jussier or somebody, even if they were former pro fighters, that's not the thing that they're doing now.
Yes. And they keep bringing back to that point, and it's like, guys, this is not MMA grappling. This is like, if you want to make it MMA grappling, then make it MMA grappling. There are organizations that do that with gloves. Like, you can do it that way. You can't strike on the feet. You don't strike on the ground. Like, there are organizations that do it.
Sure.
Like, full rules MMA on the ground. Like, it's rare, but it totally exists. This is sport jiu-jitsu. You're doing a pro sport jiu-jitsu matchup.
Yeah, I think they need to bring in a
former
grappler, like
Gordon Ryan,
a retired grappler.
Bring him in. He's good on commentary. I'm not a huge fan of the guy,
he's good
but
for
he's
technical
good on
commentary for sure.
But have him as your color guy.
Yeah, I don't think
bring in a play-by-play guy.
Terrible. I don't think he's up on the history of the sport, so to speak, in terms of like who's relevant now, what they've done, like why things matter. Like, there's certain games of certain people, and like seeing a new style, he would have no idea because he's probably watching these people grapple for the first time.
Right.
Dean, I think, is one of those dudes who got his black belt in the early 2000s, maybe.
I think so. That's right.
And talented guy, legend of MMA, but isn't really known for his grappling in the way that would make him be part of UFC BJJ as a commentator.
Right.
Like, when he's saying things, he's mostly talking about wrestling and really just like positional things. And then when things get more complicated past like the basic sort of like half guard, close guard, mount, back mount sort of positions, he doesn't really have the depth that I wanted to have technically to start speaking intelligently to it.
Yeah. It's such a weird pairing. Again, I like the guy for MMA. His MMA commentary is good. I like his MMA commentary, but for grappling,
I would love to get like a grappling personality. Like, I think Kendall Rusing does an amazing job.
Does a great job. Kendall and like guys like Jake Watson and like
Sean Williams.
Because
these are all like high level grapplers Palmer, who are like charismatic people.
Yes.
Who know the sport, they know the personalities, and they know the technical end. They can speak to it.
We have
the
guys in our sport that do really good grappling commentary.
Yeah, talent's there.
They're all over the place. They've been a good look at every
Maine
Polaris.
Miller. Yeah. There's all kinds of guys.
Look at like Polaris commentary. Like, they have Palmer back. Like, dude, get Josh Palmer.
Yeah.
Get Kendall Russo. Like, does Worlds commentary. Like, get Sean Williams. He's doing it for 15, 20 years probably. Like, those people exist in the sport. Get them on your broadcast team because it's going to elevate. Like, grapplers that really care, like guys like us, are going to hear that voice on commentary and be like, oh, sweet, it's Jay Budo.
Yeah, they know what they're talking about. Even if they make a flub, it's like, well, they'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Even if it's like I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
I know those people are already signed. I know those people already probably have their, their work. But it's like you could find other people who are charismatic and can do commentary.
Bro, give me a second broadcast. Like you do Portuguese broadcast, give me a jiu-jitsu guys broadcast.
Yeah.
Which is just like give me like
just nerds
Jay Budo and Kendall.
Tech. Yeah.
Just talk. It's like that's what I want. It's like, hey man, here's your second. Here's your Jay Budo and Kendall. We signed him for just the jiu-jitsu nerd commentary team.
I was gonna say we're already dorky enough that like charisma you can kind of put aside. Maybe Gordon Ryan is a good pick for something like that. It's like I don't necessarily need you to be like hyped up and like honestly, John Anik screaming and like
I kind of want
Joe
like,
Rogan meme like, oh my god, this just happened. It's like you could be calm and I could still enjoy it.
It's like, in all honesty, like I kind of like a guy like Mikey. I don't know how good Mikey is on the mic, but like people like that, they can give me, even as a black belt, the insight into like, oh, look at that. I am missing that when I'm watching it. Oh, look, 100%. That's why he's going there. That makes sense. He's got a really good this guard, and he likes to play with the underhook grip. That's why he keeps fencing for it.
I would say Chiesa wasn't terrible at that, but it wasn't that but he's just not as knowledgeable as I would like it to be, like him to be, or someone to be.
So, but again, we've had some really bad commentary in the past, so it's like I'll take this over. We've had commentators that are like yelling into the mic about stuff. I'm like, guys, that is a broadcast issue. So it wasn't that, but again, it's the next thing that is weird about this event that doesn't have to be weird about this event. Yeah, it just speaks to the people running it not really understanding the audience that already watches this stuff.
It's like they're trying to get the draw from the UFC name, so they're trying to pull in MMA fans, but it's like, I don't know, man. You didn't get I don't know. Is Dean Thomas really going to be the person who commentates that makes the casual MMA fan watch grappling? Right. I don't think there is. I don't know if there is a person who's going to make the casual MMA fan watch consistently.
Bro, get like Charles Oliveira. Get a current guy that'll do it. If that's what your leader is, sure. That's what your thing is. That Michael Kessler is kind of, I think he's retired now.
Maybe so.
He's former, but he's getting close to retirement.
Sure, if he's not already. Yeah,
there are guys you could put on there that are current roster if you're trying to bring it in. It's just a little disappointing that there's this much money behind it and the product is kind of as flat as it is for so many reasons. But again, camera work is great. And that's one of the things I like. I also love this on YouTube.
I do like the bowl. I know some people don't like it. I kind of like the bowl.
I like the rounds, but I don't like the 10-point must system. The rounds I'm coming around on, but the bowl I actually like. I am more and more a fan of like Karate Combat's Pit, CGI's Pit. Because why? Because I don't have to deal with freaking restarts constantly.
It's just like, resets, hey man, for out of bounds.
It keeps it in, and they can't get out of it, and they just keeps the match going, and the rounds are actually 5 minutes and not 45 seconds or a minute and a half of guys with grips and resets, and then just like it just fixes that problem.
100%.
And I am a big fan of that.
Yep.
Again, I like ADCC. There's like no rules, baby. Go to the concrete. Like that.
Yeah, that's fun
too.
too.
Fixes it on the other side of it.
That makes it more fun. Wildly dangerous, but
wildly
fun.
Dangerous.
Way more fun.
Yeah. So that's all I got. I've got enough for the outro. We've gone a little long for this. Fair. Anyway, Austin, you got anything fun going on this week?
It's always
how I lead it out.
Not in the slightest. Just training, work, regular dad who still trains kind of stuff.
I got to go on business travel, not this week, next week, and I'm not jazzed for it because I like being home. I like training and coaching, and I put that on pause for work for a week, and I'm like, this isn't worth it. Like I would much rather just be home and doing my job than not to be home and doing my job. So I'm traveling like more for work recently than I have, and I'm like, I don't like doing this. I would much rather just be home. It's like cool to get to train other places,
sure,
but it's also like I also like where I train. Yeah, I'm like I would just rather kind of be home and train with my guys. Like the different looks are good, but also they're usually not like the level of competency with the black belts that I'm training with, where it's like I'll just go home and train with my guys. So that's it. But again, it's always great to drop in and see different members of the community and get a chance to just like go to those gyms, either teach or coach or train or just do whatever you're going to do out there, and it's fun. So, Austin, any closing thoughts?
Nope.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Austin.
And we have the Grappling Reruns. Say the mat what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.